Hey guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. I am your host, Devon Harris. And yeah, you know what we do here, right? We share ideas and insights that are going to challenge you and inspire you to keep on pushing and live your absolute best life. So if that's something you're interested in, even a little bit, yeah, you are in the right place. So yeah, man, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. Our guest today is a native of the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He has set the varsity record for the 110-meter hurdles at the University of Kentucky 4 times and have broken the 60-meter hurdle records multiple times as well. He's a 7-time national champion and record holder, a double Pan American medal winner. He has competed in 5 world championships, the Commonwealth Games, the Central American and Caribbean Games, and as a junior competed at the Carifta Games as well. He is, of course, an Olympian, a 3-time Olympian competing at the 2008 Summer Olympic Games in Beijing, the 2012 Summer Games in London, and the 2016 Games in Rio, Brazil. He's a firefighter. He has found a way, therefore, to combine being a world-class athlete with that critical responsibility of saving lives. Truly remarkable person, and I'm really excited, really excited to welcome Mikel Thomas to the show. Mikel, welcome to Keep On Pushing, brother.
It's a pleasure. Glad to be here. Honored.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So you have what I want to call a typical Caribbean story. You know, in your early years, you did struggle with your identity, though. You know, your mom had moved to the U.S. to try and create a better life for your family, as many person from the Caribbean can relate to. Your father wasn't so present, and so your guidance, you were guided by your grandparents. How did you find your identity? I know that was something that was really important to you.
It was. As a young man, we left Trinidad when I was about 8, and we went to Brooklyn, New York. And there's a lot that's going on in the city that I could have gotten into. But honestly, it wasn't until I was running in the halls in high school and I was snatched up by the dean, and he pretty much told me I had a choice of either detention or coming to practice after school. I think that was an easy choice. But that man, Sidney McIntosh, really instilled a lot into me. He was a father figure at the time. And he introduced me to the world of athletics and track and field, and gave me a structure and a set of expectations that I couldn't even have imagined for myself. Mm-hmm. So despite where we were in Brooklyn, they normally say you're a product of your environment, but I was one of expectations, because this man, a Jamaican man, and really believed that we had something to offer the world, and all of us, the whole team. So in growing up, you're trying to discover who you are in this world and how the world is seeing you. And sport was kind of like my first introduction to that, in being, in a sense, labeled by a bunch of numbers that I had the power to contribute to. It's very different from other sports where you kind of could get lost in the team environment, and maybe if your team is good enough, you could just track and field is the numbers don't lie. So you are able to produce X times or X distance, or you can't. But it was good because it was very intrinsic. It allowed me to see what I was made of. How disciplined can I be? How committed can I be? How focused am I? Because you're competing against other people, but again, at the end of the day, you're competing against the clock. So it allowed me the opportunity to discover a lot of my strengths, my weaknesses, and even my nature. So I think that was the beginning of an interesting relationship, because she may have introduced me to myself, but I've always said it was one that I did get lost in being an athlete, and being known as an athlete, and being known in certain successes. And then later on in life, especially as I got a little bit older and success came, I kind of wrapped up my identity strictly in my who am I as an athlete and who am I
Mm-hmm.
as a success. So it's a love hate beautiful kind of thing. It started off as, this is who you are, I want you to see this, and then it became all of who I was, and now it's evolving to a whole different state. So now I want to take the benefits from that relationship and hopefully help other people discover who they can become beyond just the sport.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Wow, dude, that's deep. I want to say, because you're so right. You know, we have to meet ourselves. So you know, which is what you did, and in meeting yourself, you realize that although you're in a sport where you're competing, you say against a clock, but perhaps more so against yourself,
Yep.
and how that is measured up against the other guy in the lane to your left or your right. Um, and it's a broader lesson for all of us in life, that yeah, you may be part of a sales team, let's say, and you're competing or whatever it is that you're doing on your normal job, but in the end you're really just competing against yourself, and how all of us are, and how good we can get, how close we can come to our full potential. But the other point you made, and it's a challenge for all of us as athletes. We know that, but I think again it applies to the world at large. We achieve success and we get so wrapped up in that one thing that we're so good at,
Yep.
that is kind of where our identity. We allow our identity to end, and so, you know, thank you for pointing out to us that yes, you compete against yourself, you figure out who you are in terms of that relationship and that competition, but in the end you are way more than that.
Yeah, it's a journey. You know, I believe God knows how to talk to you, and you use
Mm-hmm.
the things that you are passionate and you care about to teach you the most lessons. And He's definitely used the sport to orchestrate a beautiful life for me,
Yes.
and more so not richness in possessions, but richness in experience.
Yes.
I could say I have tread upon many lands in languages that I have never even imagined. And I never would have thought when I was running in those halls way, way back then that I would have been able to become a three-time Olympian or break the national record twice and being able to medal at different competitions. Like, I would have never known what was to come, both the highs and the lows, because I've had
Mm-hmm.
to fight being homeless. I've had to fight corruption. I've had to fight poor structures, like new levels, new devils. It's a
Mm-hmm.
constant journey and battle. But I again, God has prepared me for every stage of it. So for where we are now and for where we're going, it's still a lot of excitement.
Indeed, indeed. So you moved to New York, you said, when you're about 8. Was
Yeah,
that in Brooklyn?
yeah. Brooklyn,
Yeah, we're in Brooklyn.
of course, most West Indians start in Flatbush. It's like the heart of the West Indian capital. There's
Oh, it
more,
was a Caribbean city, right?
there's more West Indians in New York City origin than in the whole Caribbean. But it's a beautiful place. You know, you're still able to still stay true to your culture. Uh,
Yeah,
at the same time, learn so much about the world because everyone is represented in New York City. So
indeed.
it was a culture shock, of course, but um, that city will always have a place in my heart.
Yeah. So you mentioned that in your move to Brooklyn, you moved from the ghetto to the hood, and you know,
Yeah.
given my background, I can relate to that. But explain that to our audience.
Um, in Maloney Gardens, Trinidad and Tobago, the whole place is a housing project, but I really didn't know. I didn't know. As a kid, you don't know that you don't have. You just live in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah.
Um, when you come to New York, uh, you're more aware of other options. You can see the way the other side lives in a sense. Um, I think a lot of it, honestly, even as I mature now, is a mentality more than anything. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea of having the thought process of lack is what really debilitates a lot of people.
Yeah, I
Because I
agree.
remember growing up in Maloney, there was a time where we had so much ownership in our building, painting it every Christmas for the New Year and things like that. that you didn't think that you were in lack. And then you would go to another place and then you would realize, okay, you might have something different. Ghetto and hood, honestly, it's just a swing of terms that, is really that much of a difference. But as you get older, you see how you kind of fit in the world around you, and you're more aware of structures, systems, and things that kind of are out of your control.
Yeah.
So when I became a little bit more aware, because when I came to Brooklyn, my mother was able to get me into a really good school. The primary system in the West Indies is a lot better than in the United States. So I was actually advanced when I came to school. I remember showing up in uniform because that's what we do in islands.
Exactly.
And nobody else had uniform.
What are you doing?
And I'm like, what is going on? People was talking back to teachers. I was
like, yeah, what?
it was crazy. I was the last set of generations that used to get hit by teachers just out of respect, and it was just different. But because I was able to see more of the complexities, I learned more of the mentality of this is how it is, and I never really agreed with certain aspects of that. I think there's a lot of beauty in it. There's leaders that come out of the ghetto. There's presidents, there's CEOs, there's financial powers, there's musicians, there's artists, there's athletes. Where the seed is planted doesn't necessarily mean where it's going to bear fruit, but in the same sense, you can still produce. But now, to me, there's not that much of a difference because by the grace of God, I'm still evolving and maturing as an individual. But I really feel it's where your mind is that kind of sets your atmosphere.
Where your mind is, that sets the atmosphere. It leaves me to think about that a bit because, as I said, you can use the terms ghetto and hood interchangeably, and you describe how when you were back in Trinidad, although you lived in the hood or the ghetto, there was a greater sense of pride and ownership on the part of the people who lived there, right? They lived in lack, but they never really recognized that level of lack that you saw when you move to Brooklyn, let's say. And the fact that that there are so many successful stories that come out of the ghetto, come out of the hood. The seed was planted there. What do you think causes those seed to bloom in the way they do versus the vast majority that doesn't?
I think it's a belief system. And I could totally understand growing up in both places. The city of dreams like New York City can be a hard place sometimes because you have a lot of people who have broken dreams. So if you have an ambition, sometimes it can come up against great opposition because other people may not necessarily agree that it is achievable. But when a dream is shared, it's empowered. And so no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, no matter the location, if you have the right amount of people to invest in it, family structures, friends, organizations that are willing to invest in an idea, a chance can make a huge difference. We're seeing stuff right now in Maloney, like one organization, like Hearts of Maloney, is a football organization teaching kids basic life skills through football. Love the concept.
Right.
Giving kids an opportunity to just at least learn something different, to learn something better. And I think that's what a blessing was through sport in my life is while I was competing, I was able to travel to many different places. And so what I was able to do was gain different perspectives. Because if you think that this is normal, then you just accept things as they are. If you realize there are other ways, you can change different realities. I really believe the only difference between a poor man and a rich man is options. And unfortunately, we are unaware of what our options are. Whether I can't be this, but whether you think you can or you can't, you're absolutely right. I'm not the person who's going to tell you your truth. But if
Mm-hmm.
someone is able to say or speak into existence that you are capable of, then the possibilities are limitless. So it really has to be something that is shared. It's hard. I mean, certain individuals can do it by themselves, but that's not how we were made. We're made to be interdependent. We're made to work together in a capacity. So even if it's one person who's able to also believe in something with you, then it has the ability to take on so much. But I think that's the main thing, just having, even within the environment, creating an environment, an atmosphere that is conducive. I think that's the key.
I like that last sentence, even within the environment, creating an environment. Because I was going to ask you, before you said that, about the fact that the difference between the rich man and the poor man is options. And while I agree with that to a certain extent, I'm thinking back to, like, I grew up in the hood as well. And recognizing that there weren't many options within my immediate environment, but you could see the opulence on the outside and recognize that, wow, if there are people out there living that way, so why not me? And so therefore, within your environment, as you just said, you can create an environment, which means, and you can speak to this, growing up in Brooklyn, or me growing up in Olympic Gardens in Kingston, where there are not a lot of options for success, so to speak, not a lot of examples, but making sure that you still align yourself with the people who aren't heading south, who aren't heading in the direction that is not going to create success. Is that how it worked for you as well?
Absolutely. Growing up in Maloney, it was a little easier. Honestly, I felt like to get some of my affirmation, I really dove into my academics. The old school was, take care of your grades and things.
Yeah.
I was in trying to get, my mother wasn't around because she was in New York. Father was military, so he was in and out. So if there was, growing up as a kid, something to say that you were good, then I needed it. So spelling bee, I won it. Science fair, I won it. I was looking for these things to affirm who I was. So I was very fortunate in that regard, because I could have also got that from stealing or whatever the case is. But I use the academic side to kind of really get the affirmation that I was looking for. And that's what a lot of it is. Like, so when you hear a lot of kids who end up into the life of crime and things, it's because they were looking for someone to affirm them in a certain way. But that's what we can do in academics. That's what we can do by creating the environment. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be sport, but sport is beautiful, because I've been in countries where I don't speak the language, but we should rep in the same team and we're going to cheer together.
Exactly.
Sport, and food and music. It's probably one thing that can unite people regardless of where you are, regardless of the language or the culture. And so by doing that, you can create these mini environments of where success can grow, and you can spread like wildfire, because now this person can now influence their own family, their own friends, their own small circle. And then that's how it kind of popcorns.
And it grows. So validation, and I'm so relating to you as you talk about, seeking validation through, first of all, grades. That's how we're raised in the Caribbean, right? And doing spelling bee as I did, and all that other good stuff, right? Now, it wasn't very scientific, but and of course the sports.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for some kid, whether it's in Maloney or Brooklyn or in Kingston or wherever, as to maybe they don't see themselves as really strong academically? How would you suggest they go about seeking validation outside of joining a gang and stealing and that kind of stuff?
I think we should have more confidence in the things that we are actually called to. Again, I believe God speaks to you your own way. And he places your ambitions, your desires for a reason. And so whether it's you're artistically inclined, you enjoy drawing, allow that to be a place of expression. Allow that to be how you are able to really gather your thoughts and understand yourself in a different capacity. Like you hear people speak on the runner's high all the times. When they run, they get a clarity of mind and thought, like that is real. But I also feel like that it is for everything that you have a passion for. And if you allow yourself to dive into your passion, then you allow yourself to discover something new, your new levels of creativity, your new levels of understanding, because anybody's willing to or capable of reading a book on a subject that they care about.
Yeah.
And so if you can find that, you will learn that you want more of the substance, especially as you're growing up. Your hunger for knowledge and wisdom and experience is really big. And so if you can, you know, you need the ability to experience different things. And part of this conversation is the idea that a lot of these things don't exist, unfortunately, because these communities don't get the same amount of options and opportunities to discover the variety that life has to offer. Like you see it in New York a little bit more, but in the West Indies, it's hard. You're not seeing groups that are coming into certain communities that are willing to teach kids a variety of different skills, introduce them to the arts or introduce them to music, introduce them to sciences or STEM, allowing them to see, is this or for or not for me? And I think in giving them at least the opportunity to learn something new or try something different, then they'll be able to discover what's for them. Because again, if all you have before you is a class or school that you don't like, or hanging out in the streets and like your options are low, so you're going to choose what seems more appealing.
Right.
If I had a choice, I literally had a choice. We have a trip to California to run a track meet or go outside. But that's because I was pouring myself into it through discipline, through hard work. It became something separate that the options started to expand it. No, first time you're into a sport, you're not going to make an international team. That's not going to be there, but you have to cultivate that. You have to tend the soil, you have to work it, and then the variety of options are going to be made available to you. So first is find something that you're willing to work for, because everything in life you have to work for. So you can find something that will allow you, that intrigues you, that pulls you in a different capacity, then it could potentially change the course of your life.
Right. So although then and I agree with you, the options that exist here in New York are not the same that exist across the Caribbean. And I've experienced that as well in other, the options that exist in other developing countries don't exist. You don't have the groups coming into neighborhoods like ours to enlighten. But in the same way, I mean, we use sports as a vehicle, but you're right. There are other options, and you said something earlier that just makes so much sense. That you're not necessarily a product of your environment, but your expectations. Right. I think that is where the difference lies. If you can get a young person to recognize that they can expect more than what is around them, that will cause them, as you say, to find that one thing and pour themselves into it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when you're young, you're kind of left to the expectations of those that are quote unquote taking care of you or managing your life. But we are co-creators, right? So we have way more power to produce a reality around us than we realize. And I think if the youth, and especially the parents, could take a little bit more time to just really think about, if you had the power to manifest something, what would it be? We're not taking the time to write down goals. We're not taking the time to set a course, to make plans, to have steps. I know life happens. That's how it is. But in the same sense, discipline can at least create a level of freedom, because if you do what you need to do now, you'll have the freedom to do what you want to do later. Like these are just fundamental principles. I'm not the first person to say it, because it's not new underneath the sun. And then they say, if you want to make a person free, or the best place to hide it is in a book. It's, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, look in there.
It's unfortunate, but it's true. So
It's true. It is true. It is.
there's so much knowledge that is available. So maybe it's a little bit of both. The kids do need the information, but they're being oversaturated by a lot of nonsense. But it is up to us and in opportunities like this to have these conversations, to create, if the book doesn't reach them, to create the content that will.
Yeah.
And maybe the YouTube video will slide in their ears in a certain capacity that they can create a thought, plant or water a seed that can change the course. Because that's part of the thing that I also feel is the issue, because sometimes we have successes and they seem so far from the community. And I really want to be a part of that, bridging the gap in helping people understand that, oh, you've made 3 Olympics, you've been to these places, beautiful. You know, I also walk these streets just like you. Exactly. I went to the same school just like you. And so I learned the same things you did just like you. But I thought this, and it was because of this that I was able to do that. And so if you humanize the process a little bit more, it makes a difference. Like every time I see a youth and I'm on the track, I don't introduce myself as an Olympian. Like I had a kid the other day here in Miami doing some stuff, and I was just watching him. It was 6 a.m. on Christmas Day. Right. I thought I was disciplined. This young man coming out 6 a.m. First thing I says, how can I help you? He didn't know how to respond. That's the craziest thing. There's a lot of youths who don't know how to respond to genuine help because they always feel like some motive. Took the kid through all of my drills, then introduced myself as an Olympian. That's it. It's not what I can gain or offer you. And I don't have to post this on social media to show the world what I'm doing. I'm out at 6 a.m. because that's part of my structure. And I can see a youth willing to do the same thing for himself. Here's some lessons that I've learned in my X amount of years that could potentially make his life better than mine.
Indeed.
I'm not grudging. I'm not one of those people who want you to have a level of success, but just not better than mine. I'm not one of those. I've coached athletes in the past, and I had more in my career than I anticipated. God blew my mind. So I'm not trying to live vicariously through anyone.
Right.
All I can do is, here's what I've learned. It's up to you if you want to digest it, if you want to take it on. But be at least willing to have the conversation and teach people how to succeed. That's hard. This life hard. Yeah. And no one person have the answers, right? But
I agree.
No one, but we can still give them, here's an option. Here's another option that you could consider. If it's for you, it's for you. Respect nonetheless. Love still the same.
Yes.
But there's at least a choice. And that is what sometimes I feel a lot of people want. They just want a choice that I want to do. And I feel that frustration a lot with youths. I want to do something different, but I don't know what
to do.
So we're just trying to give them a choice. Because again, I'm not selling the idea like sports. I'm a sportsman. That's cool. I love it. And I'm trying to understand the business of it so that I can help people on a global aspect. But in the same sense, I understand discipline, hard work, determination, goal setting, diversity, communication. This is skills that I've learned through sport. This could be taken to a boardroom, to a political campaign, to a marketing strategy. This can be taken to any element. And those are the things that I feel that are principles in life for success. And that is what we have to give the youths.
Yeah. You know, it may sound a little cliche, but, you know, it's so believed that part of the art of living is giving. And so you meeting this young man and pouring yourself into him is key. Because if you think about it and what you just said earlier, you know, the dean at your school did the same thing. He saw you down the hallway, and he gave you, you know, what I would say at our age as boys, a pretty easy choice: detention or track, right? So I'm assuming you used to run in Trinidad as well?
Actually, I remember, it's almost like a Michael Jordan story, but the first time I tried to make like a club team or a sports day, I remember I didn't get through. I remember they told me I was either two something. I wasn't good enough for
That
whatever
was
the
good
case.
enough.
I
Yeah.
ain't sure. And I remember that day, and I remember I was excited about it. I remember wanting to do it, and I remember not being able to go through. And I have this conversation with a lot of my peers, especially my girlfriend now, because our desire is always to do better, and we want to give our own family more than what we achieved.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't reached yet, but we're working hard. But obviously, we want to give our kids more than what we have.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the unfortunate things that we've experienced, like rejection, have allowed us to learn how to persevere. And so sometimes hearing no when I was 5 in something that I cared about, let me know if I really cared about it or not.
Yeah.
And so what I may have been inactive in sport from 8 till high school. That's a long time.
Yeah.
In the same sense, I came back with a rejuvenation. It was a determination. I always loved sport in Trinidad, cricket, football, the average things on the island. My
Right.
father was a footballer. He made his name in that regard. So when I had the opportunity to start picking out sports that I really wanted, I, in a rebellious style, wanted to have my own lane and not to be known in his capacity.
Right.
So
Right.
track and field kind of was something that I gravitated to because it's individual and it's freeing and I don't need anything. I could just run.
Right.
So
Win, lose, or draw, it comes down to you.
yeah.
I know that, as you mentioned, your dad, I know that, as we said earlier, you guys didn't spend a lot of time, but you had a chance to reconnect. And in Brooklyn, how was that?
He visited through football, through life, through New York every once in a while. And it was good because I remember there's one sports day we had went and I just kind of ventured off by myself and they were running races in the back. And I won against the kids bigger than me or whatever, have a medal on my neck, walk back, sit down next to my father, watch the football game like normal.
Right.
But I had these medals and it was the first time I felt affirmed by him because it's, hey, small man, hey, I see
Yeah.
because he in front of his friends and things.
Right.
But I think it may have planted a seed that, okay, this was a level of affirmation that I never had before. That, okay, this medal equals this praise, this is what I wanted. So 1 + 1 = 2. I want the 2. So sport is this. So I think that was the beginning of just a connection of, okay, there's something within this running scene that kind of makes me feel from the people I love and the people I want to hear certain things from that, okay, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're doing good. And so growing up, again, I grew up in New York and he stayed in Trinidad. We would stay in touch. But of course, there's so much more to the relationship that I still desire to this day. We're working on it. God's working on it.
Right.
In the same sense, sport was something that we related on. And so that helps. It helps a great deal. And so if you don't want to talk about the emotions, which unfortunately a lot of men still have issues with, we could talk about football.
Sports, right.
And we could talk about the national team. We can talk about that. And I think I'm still very grateful for that. And then we'll allow God to work out the rest.
Indeed. So you started out, how did you get interested in hurdles?
Because someone told me I was too short. Really, it's not, I wish it was like a super, it was because somebody told me I couldn't.
Right.
And because I had so much rejection, so much hard times that I got tired of that conversation. I got tired of somebody telling me I can't because why? Because I'm Black, because I'm from Trinidad, because I'm from the Ghetto, everybody from Lausanne. I got tired of that conversation. And again, because someone started introducing me to other things. I went to Idaho and California, North Carolina. I went to places I never knew on the map at a young age. And I'm like, but I see them doing this, so why I can't do this?
Right.
So it wasn't honestly till I went most of my high school career without hurdling. We ended doing the 400 hurdles, longer event, shorter distance, height, but longer event.
Right.
just to add a little bit more versatility, to become a little bit more attractive to universities. And then maybe one or two short hurdle races, they just kind of threw me in. So I just ran and jumped,
Right.
just figured it out. It wasn't until I got to university, and again, everybody, I'm a strong 5'8", confident, happy with it. But
Right.
most people in the hurdle events are about 6 feet, 6'2", 6'3". It's a tall man event. The barriers are about 106 centimeters, so it's not no easy thing. So I had the 400 hurdles, but I saw these shorter events and I was like, okay, I can do this. I literally trained myself for years in the dark, after hours, by myself, because I hated the idea of someone dictating my life. How are you writing my story and telling me I can't do X?
Yeah.
It didn't compute. I literally had someone telling me that I can. So how are you going to tell me that I cannot? And because, again, that atmosphere stayed with me at such a pivotal age, that someone instilled a principle that you can, you're not going to break that. And yeah, we have this conversation all the time that most of your personalities develop, when you're young. And so I felt with the rejection, got introduced with what my contribution to that equation can be. And then I saw the results of that. Oh, you can't change my mind. If I can't do it, then it will be because I physically cannot.
Or
But in
decided not to.
mind,
I often say that if you want me to do something, tell me I can't. and it's done. But you said something also instructive, the fact that you trained yourself. So you were talking about the discipline and the hard work, but also something I speak about a lot, the fact that most of what we need to succeed in life is skill-based.
yes.
And those are things that you can work on, you can practice, you can develop. And so, yeah, I'm guessing that when you started, you weren't so good at hurdling. Now you've developed that skill of hurdling. You're a 3-time Olympian going on to your 4th. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, speak about the importance of just developing your skill, regardless of what it is that you do.
Absolutely. Again, it was something that I just wanted to see for myself at first, that I can do it. I remember the first time I cleared the 42-inch barrier, I didn't tell anybody for a while. It was intrinsic. It was like, okay, I am capable of doing it. That's cool. But I remember when I then transferred to the University of Kentucky and we tried to do both hurdles, that first year coach was like, no, you're going to kill yourself or somebody. it was rough. I was raw. I was very, very raw. This was like 2007, 2006. I was very raw. But again, I had this stubborn, relentless idea that I could do it. It was in my spirit. So I kept working at it. I kept reading up. I kept watching. I kept practicing. I kept doing it because I knew that I was capable. I just had this notion, this conviction in me that it was possible. I went home for the national trials and I ended up breaking like the school record at the time. And it would have qualified me to like the NCAA championships or something. And then, so this was 2007. I made my first senior international teams in both events. And then I came back to Kentucky and then he was like, okay, we're going to focus on both events. And then we made the Olympic team in 2008. So it was, for the most lifespan of people who do the event, no one picks up an event before the Olympics and makes the event at the Olympics. So it was one of those things because I still had the idea of making the 400 hurdles. But I remember it was literally at a point I was at the SEC championships and I made the finals for the 110-meter hurdles and not the 400 hurdles.
Right.
And then I had the B
So
standard.
fate kind of decided that for you. But what does that say, though, Mikel, about our ability to accomplish anything that we set our mind to?
It's you never know unless you try. And the only way to know it's not possible is to quit. That's the only time you absolutely know the result.
That is true. Yep. And that's the only time that you yourself have accepted failure.
Yeah. And so,
What was it that inspired? I know you're a firefighter. Tell us about that. What inspired you to become a firefighter?
I think it was just God placed it in my heart to serve. And when I went through the whole identity crisis through the sport, um, I'm now at a point in the stage in my life principle that is about what I can now give,
Mm-hmm.
what lessons I have learned, or what I have been able to accomplish and help people step above. Um, Father was military, uncle's firefighter, so I come from a line of a serviceman, and that was the heart in becoming a firefighter, was the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to serve and humanize the experience of Olympians. Use the same grocery store that you use, as
Right.
live in the same neighborhood,
Yeah.
but you too can be an extraordinary individual in whatever you're called to be. And so, by the idea of coming in on a person's bad day and being a firefighter, I can give a source of inspiration and hope that this is might be how it is today, but tomorrow will always be better.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow could be as great as Tokyo Olympics if that's what you decide to do. But
Yeah.
from this point, you have the opportunity to create a future. And so that was the hope in becoming a firefighter. But I would say that time has refined, literally under fire, my goals and mission. And that's what brought me back to school.
Indeed. So I know you're a man of deep faith. What role does faith play in your life as an athlete? How do you see your platform as an athlete, internationally? What role does that? How does that platform allow you to impact and create an avenue for you to profess your faith?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things it gave me was an identity, because as great as sport is, it can love you like nothing else. It can also hurt you and
Mm-hmm.
destroy you with the quickness. Um, if you're injured, if you're hurt, if you ain't make this final, if you run this sport, there's been cases. They even tried to do this with some athletes. For example, like Keyshawn Walcott, medaled gold in 2012. He threw further in 2016 and he got bronze, and people were upset.
Yeah, that's a Caribbean thing right there, man. I don't know.
It's true, but that's kind of the heavy is the head that wears. That's the toll that sport can do. It. They can love you from
Yeah.
the abyss, but they can also put you there. And when I was having a great level of success, I made the Olympics in 2008, and in 2009 was probably one of the worst years. Like everything that I defined myself as a level of success was crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, I was no longer this person that I thought I was. And it was because of my faith, because of the love of Christ, because of having an identity. It's still something I can't really understand, that someone loves me for me and is willing to pay a price so that I can be free.
Mm-hmm.
That is a conversation that every day I'm still trying to grasp. And because I know that, I have the ability to say, I love the sport, but I don't need the sport. But what I can do is, because I'm called to the sport, have those conversations with people to say that this is how this can be used to cultivate a new reality and cultivate a new life. And that this is a journey. It's not about, I've been trying to break the world record forever, but it's not about what you can accomplish, but who you become in the process. And I think that's my greatest gift, because the gold medal is already God's. I can't give him any more glory than he already deserves.
Mm-hmm.
But who he can make me in that process, that's being literally refined under fire by the blood, sweat, and tears that I'm putting into it. And no one can take away these principles of who I have become since I've been in sport. And I could lose my medals. Someone is going to break my national record. I look forward to it. I wish I can help the person.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it is. That's what I want. But who I am as a man, you can't take that away, because
Right.
that's how God used to refine me. And so I know the struggle, especially with men. That's like my heart. Um, there's a lot of fatherless men. I've been fortunate that I had a father figure step into my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had been fortunate. I didn't grow up with any brothers, but my team was my brethren. You know, that was
Mm-hmm.
a introduction to a family structure that was vital. I learned how to be affectionate and how to express my emotion as a man, which is like, oh, a curse word. Like, can I show
Yeah,
emotions? I think it's responsible to be emotionally aware. And I've been able to gain all these things through faith. And now, if I can have those small conversations, whether it's to plant the seed or water the seed, whatever it is, it's God's calling. I just want to be able to play a part in giving people more that they can build a better life off of. And that's what I hope to do.
indeed. You said something really important worth repeating. It's not so much what you accomplish, but what you become, who you become in the
Absolutely.
process. Um, and talking about the process, it's a journey. Talk to us now. I mentioned earlier that you're working on your fourth Olympics in Tokyo,
Mhm.
and you're working on some other things. So can you jump into that for us, quick?
Absolutely. From the refining of the dream, I decided I really wanted to serve the people, and that allowed me to be a firefighter. But the sport kept calling me. I took a little sabbatical in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just there's so much frustrations, especially as you rise amongst the rank, it becomes more political, it becomes more financially constraining, it becomes a lot more. You become more aware of the system that's happening and the things that are in play, that sometimes the frustration takes a lot of people out of the sport. But a lot of the things that I have learned, that there's a reason why it frustrates me, is because I might be the person to play a role in it. And the only way to really change something is from the inside. You can't criticize from the outside and point fingers and tell them how
Mm-hmm.
to do it unless you're actually willing to roll up your sleeve and get to work. And so in that process, God kind of put it in my heart that I need to go back to school. And I didn't like the idea. I'm finally a firefighter. The idea of stability is coming my way because, the more years you serve, the more money comes, health
Right.
benefits, kids, all that stuff. But I was like, okay, if I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to go to the number one school in the world. Where is it? Google it, find it. I applied to one school and I got in. I got into the International Academy of Sports Science and Technology in Lausanne, Switzerland. It's the number one sports management program in the world, founded by the International Olympic Committee and the home of over 50 international sporting bodies. So it was an idea to take this seed of you need to serve the sport and serve people and put it in the greatest place, soil, to be amongst the people who are actually making the decision in sport. My program has had 3 people from the West Indies, and I'm the third person, 2 great men from Jamaica, and myself. So there's not enough representation um, of people of color. Of I don't think there's been a black female come through the program yet. That I don't think there's enough representation of the people who are actually making the decision, who are aware of what's happening here when you're
Mm-hmm.
making the decision there. I heard that if you aren't making the decision, that you're going to be faced with the consequences of it. So I'm feeling all the consequences of the decisions that are happening there. So now, how do we help them understand what's happening and take the beauty of sport and now actually use it in its capacity to help develop, grow, attract, and take it into this new millennium in different capacities. So it's an opportunity to transition also. A fourth Olympic Games, wow, that is an amazing feat in itself. But it will be a great completion, and it will be an opportunity to, while I have the world's attention towards the Olympic Games, use this to really build the programs, the schools, institutions, the academies, the connections, have the conversations with the people that are going to be aware. Because unfortunately, people pay attention only during the 4 years.
Yes, indeed.
But it's, again, my finite attempt to use momentum at the right time to, okay, boom, Olympics. Now let's use sport to help other people to achieve whatever the Olympic is in their life. And if we can use sport, the grassroots level, to bring up leaders, educate our youths, give them options, give them a quality of life, change mentalities, increase health benefits, health and fitness. There's so many aspects of this to make it a holistic appearance that could really start changing cultures. That I have visions for sport. Like in the Caribbean, there's no reason why sport can't be its own self-funded entity and not require help from the government. I've seen structures in the United States where University of Kentucky, for example, my alma mater, pays money back to the school because it's capable of earning that much income. I understand how sports works in Europe is very different from how it works in America. So hopefully by having this international experience, I can now serve the communities that I've been called to.
Indeed. So you're heading off to Lausanne. Talk to us, because I know you have some financial obligation. How can we help with that?
By the grace of God, he opened the door and we raised over $20,000 to be there. It was an amazing opportunity. I'm still blown away by the support that we were able to receive, but we still have a ways to go. We have about $7,000 left to pay to finalize tuition. And school has been so gracious to me, but I really want to finish pay off tuition as soon as possible and to cover the living expenses, which are about $2,000 a month for the next 6 months. Once that happens, I will be in a secure position to then move into an internship or work experience. And that would be right around the time of the Olympic Games, which would then allow me the opportunity to really capitalize on everything and stand in a position to really now start a lot of these things back in the communities and really move things forward. So we're hoping to finish pay for tuition and cover the living expenses and make this Olympic team and finish this strong. And that's the goal, finish the mission.
I know you have a GoFundMe campaign.
Yep.
Can you share the website URL with us?
Yes, no problem. It's gofundme.com/help Olympic Firefighter. It's a really simple one, but you can see all the money that we've raised thus far. I give a lot of updates. Like in the 3 months I've already been in school, I've met the president of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, shook in hands with this guy and got him to talk about Trinidad and Tobago during a press conference. Like that's the point. We want these people to actually start being aware. Like I want sport tourism to be legitimate. Like Trinidad and Tobago is hosting the Youth Commonwealth Games in 21. Could you imagine if we would have hosted during the Caribbean a Commonwealth Games amongst different islands? Last time Commonwealth Games was in the Caribbean was when it was in Jamaica, decades ago.
Yeah, maybe 62, I want to say.
That's
a long time.
way too long. Way too long.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine you can now add a level of tourism to where people are coming from one island to another island for different sports. There's so much more we can do with sport. There's so much we can do for the region, so much more we can do for each island. I've met with FIBA, I've met like from Omega Watches. There's so many different corporations and levels and organizations that we've been able to reach. That's the whole point. I want them to be aware. Trinidad and the West Indies, the Caribbean exists. You know our talent, but let's invest in the youth. Let's invest in creating programs. Working with the International Testing Agency and developing an education program, because we have to understand sporting and doping and clean sports and our responsibility to move sport forward, and how to also develop a high performance program, my own project. Like I want to also have countries, regions be able to know you have a kid, here's how you bring them to the Olympics, and actually have the necessary stakeholders that are involved to make those things possible. Because one of the greatest ways to create a national and global identity is through sport. Because if I say Germany, you think of sport, you think of certain things. If I say UK, you think of certain things. You can think of certain sports, and that's how you can also get your international country the recognition in a positive aspect. So there's so many things that we can use the power of sport to do. And I'm really being as conscious as possible for our region and our people to, again, put us in the room, have the conversation, and then utilize sport in the next capacity. Because there's a huge possibility of where's the next Olympics going to be? There hasn't been an Olympics in Africa. Why can't there be one in the Caribbean? There's only been one in South America. There's so much potential to have major sporting events. We need to be prepared. And this is the beginning of it.
Indeed. So help Olympic firefighter, friends. Go to gofundme.com/help Olympic firefighter. Let's help this Olympic firefighter as he embarks on this new chapter, this part of his journey. Mikel, it's been awesome, man. I mean, I appreciate you being here, sharing your experience and your wisdom with us. You, as everybody else that we have invited to this program, epitomizes the keep on pushing philosophy. And we want to challenge you and encourage you to keep on pushing. Thank you for appearing on Keep On Pushing.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that subscribe button and hit that bell. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. And don't forget, share it with your friends, man. They want to be inspired as well, right? So share it. Don't keep it. And before you go on to the next video, visit my website, www.devonharris.com. Keep on pushing.